What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Mint City Soccer Show. I'm one of your hosts, David Gusler. I'm back this week, sunburnt as ever, roasted in the sun, and I'm here with my good friend, Matt Swift. Matt, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you, David? How was the beach?
I was fantastic, except for I can't lean back in my chair because it'll be sharp needles going down my back with sunburn. But other than that, it was a great time. Got to spend some time with friends and family, and unfortunately, I had to watch Charlotte FC lose a game on my cell phone in a beach house because the kids were watching Cocomelon while I had to watch the game on my phone. But other than that, it was good, man. How was your weekend?
As much as I hate Cocomelon, I think I would have much rather watch that than the game.
That's kind of an indictment to the quality that we saw there that game potentially. So, but let's dive into that. We're not going to analyze Cocomelon. So if you're tuned into this show, don't worry. We're not going to talk about wheels on the bus go round and round. We're here to talk about why Charlotte FC choked in the last minute against NYCFC 2-1. That unbeaten streak against that city group team in New York has come to an end, Matt. So I think it's the third or fourth time we've played them in a different location. And unfortunately, we are winless in Yankee Stadium against NYCFC.
Yeah, it was a poor performance. Not a great night. I still think we probably could have and should have got a point there. I think we did enough to get a point, but overall, pretty disappointed.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think we did enough to earn at least 1 point. You know what I mean? Like we went up early, showed a pretty good flash there in the first 10 or 15 minutes, which is what Charlotte's been when we've done well this year. We've done really well in the first 15, 20 minutes. But then everything kind of crumbled there before halftime and in the second half. But before we start talking about that a little bit, first, I have to get your thoughts on this because I was texting a few people. What's your thoughts on playing in a stadium like Yankee Stadium for MLS and professional soccer in a venue like that?
Yeah, I think we touched on a little bit during soccer and coffee. Like, I think it's just something that's unfortunately temporary, and you just have to kind of work through. I mean, we've went through MLS 1.0. I think we're kind of like in 2.0, and then there's going to be a new version of that where you're seeing more soccer specific stadiums. There's some debate over turf and everything like that. Maybe we'll see people do away with that and get back to grass. But I think, football lines, those are some of the things that are still kind of lingering that we need to move on from eventually. And I think, playing in Yankee Stadium is one of those things. New York's about to get their own stadium, so that will kind of take care of itself. But yeah, just, some progression. But unfortunately, yeah, I still got to go through some kind of ridiculousness.
It's a little ridiculous when you see the grass rolled out to cover the infield a little bit, and then you have the NYCFC logo over the pitching mound, and it's just, I don't know, it's wonky. I understand and I appreciate them trying to make it seem like a home field advantage, but it seems kind of weird. Like I think Eric Krakauer posted a picture of him in the press box, and he's behind home plate, and it's like really far away from the game. So I can only imagine how difficult that had to be to announce the game and do a play-by-play from that kind of distance, right?
Yeah, Eric's a pro. I'm sure he looked at the monitor most of the time and had to do it that way. But yeah, he's a pro. But like I said, it's unfortunate, but it looks like it's just going to be temporary.
Yeah. So good luck to New York from that venue perspective. I will definitely have to go back up there though once they do get their own stadium. That would be a pretty cool spot up there for it. So, but let's get into the game a little bit, man. So what we talked a little bit on Soccer and Coffee about match predictions and starting 11 predictions. And I have to say, after doing that show with you and then seeing the starting 11 for this game, I was kind of caught off guard. How about you?
A little bit, for sure. I think Junior Urso coming in and starting let me know that they wanted to have a little more defensive bite in the midfield. We talked about a little bit. Saying that the midfield was going to be a dogfight, and it's something that we would have to win. And I think Dean kind of alluded to the fact that Diani, he wasn't too pleased with him in his performance last time out. So Junior gets the nod. Again, has a little more bite in the midfield, which it worked. It worked out. I thought Junior actually played halfway decent. He picked up that yellow card pretty early though, which was unfortunate. But I think that's why we saw that. Pekovic is another one that was a little bit of a surprise. But again, I don't think Dean is very happy with what he has at his disposal in that position. So he wanted to try something else. And again, I thought Pekovic played halfway decent. No one played great that night. It's 2 weeks in a row where no one really covered themselves in glory, aside from the goal from Vargas. But yeah, I was rather pleased with what I saw, and I'm hoping we'll see more of Pekovic in the future.
And I know we got a lot of questions during the fan Q&A around like the pitch and also how that affected potentially the play. So we'll sprinkle in some questions here a little bit, but just continuing on that starting 11 a little bit. And I don't want to go by player, but you mentioned the midfield's had. I mean, you've had an injury or two here and there with like Scotty Arfield, but there's been a lot of rotation at midfield, for better or for worse, right? And it's been one of the most inconsistent things that we've had on the pitch so far this season, outside of the striker position, which is between Enzo and Patrick. We'll get to that here in a minute too. But it was interesting to see Junior Urso start. I thought the smaller pitch, his experience in MLS, probably playing up there before, was probably something that Dean liked. And then having more small side, kind of tight balls and attack from that perspective. I think that was the original game plan. Was that Junior Urso would be able to help support that a little bit. I'm still kind of confused a little bit. Maybe you could help me out just from a fan perspective. But with Petrovic, like when you saw him at Crown Legacy in years past, you saw him kind of playing a 6 and an 8 role. Before we even brought him into Legacy, he was kind of thought of like the heir apparent for Ashley Westwood, coming in as a 6 and an 8. But in Dean's system so far, he's been playing kind of a like attacking mid. Is that where you truly think he'll be long term, or is that just because Dean's kind of just throwing shit at the wall, trying to figure out what's going to work in the midfield eventually?
I think there's a little bit of just tinkering some to try to figure out what you got. But the good thing about Pekovic is that he's versatile, so you can move him around. That's the good thing about having him on this team and why they paid the money that they did for him. So, he spent some time at Legacy to kind of develop. And I thought he was, pretty bright last game. So, but again, I think he's versatile enough. You can move him around, and that's a good thing, especially when I think our coach really is trying to figure out what that cam role is going to be like. I'm okay with rotating a little bit. We've talked about this before. Our coach looked at this match, noticed the opponent, noticed an area that we're going to, perhaps struggle or we need to win. And instead of Gianni, threw in Urso. And like, it's good to have those options. And when you look at a team, you have different personnel that you can move in and out. So I'm okay with a little bit of rotation. I think the big problem again is who's going to be the creative force on this team. And that's where the problem is.
So not to make this too punny and too bad, but I'm going to use a movie title here: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So let's start with the good from the starting 11 first. So what did you think about Vargas's play? He was actually our highest rated player on FootMob with a 7.7 last week. You would probably say he's in the good category from a play perspective last week, right?
Yeah, another goal for him. I think too, because we saw another winger not play great defense this game. I think people really need to give Vargas some credit defensively too. I think he's done a really great job to be so offensive. I'm really pleased with him. I'm glad he's on this team. He's been stepping up. Another great goal. So yeah, that would be my good. Do you want to hear my?
Yeah, let's do the bad. Let's do the bad, and then we'll do the ugly after that. Well, maybe it's not ugly is the right term, but maybe the not so great looking. So we'll do the good, the bad, and the not so great looking. So what was the bad from us?
The bad is our passing. We for some reason cannot connect passes. And I've got, let me see, I got some stats here that I was going to share later, but I can go ahead and jump to this. So there's 29 teams total in the league. Accurate passes per match were 25th out of 29 teams. Accurate crosses per match, 24th. And I think I mentioned it was either the match preview or the podcast before about, where we were with accurate long balls towards the bottom. I think we were 4th from the bottom there. So it's just, we're not connecting passes. We're playing differently this year. It's not a lot of like playing around the back and making easy passes. So I get it, but it's been very, very bad this season, and I'm not entirely sure why. So that would be the bad. The ugly is giving up a goal again in stoppage time, not seeing out a point, conceding late again, just got awful defending.
Well, and I think to add to that for me would be the ugly would be Vargas getting another yellow and now being suspended. So not only did we lose this game in last minute, Vargas got another yellow, which means he's suspended for the next game because of yellow card accumulation. So not only is it rubbing salt in the wound that we lost points in the last minute, but we also lost our leading goal scorer for another game next week. So that's going to hurt a little bit at home.
Yeah, I think Westwood's on 4 too. And, players picking up stupid yellow cards, like fouling someone in certain instances I'm okay with that, strategic fouls, but like running your mouth, things like that. Like sometimes Westwood does that a little bit, and that frustrates me because those can accumulate. And he's the type of player that needs to get stuck in and, will pick up yellow cards that way. Again, I'm fine with that. But yeah, it's gonna suck missing Vargas this game.
So before we get into a lot of stats, I do have some stats here when I kind of just get your initial thoughts on. But Charlotte hasn't won an away game in the last 6 matches. So how much is that because of the style of play and how difficult it is to win on the road in MLS? Or is it an indictment to Charlotte FC just struggling, frankly, on the road and not being able to win a game on the road?
It's different. It's difficult in general in MLS to win on the road. That's why you always hear people say you just win your home games and you're pretty solid. So there's a lot of that. There's so much parity that the East again is just completely stacked. So it's tough to win on the road. But the issue with us again and again and again is at least pick up a draw. Pick up a point. We should have got a point out of this, and we didn't, because we gave up a 93rd minute goal out of 95 minutes of stoppage time. So if we would have lasted 2 more minutes, we would have got a point out of this, but we didn't. And we've done that before. It's kind of a common theme. And I just think our players are not thinking at the end of games. I do want to make sure we come back to that last goal, because I'm furious at a few folks.
So let's talk about the 3 goals then real quick. So the first goal happened in the 3rd minute, right? Petkovic had a nice assist to Vargas. Vargas was able to make a pretty beautiful goal and shot on target there and made Charlotte go up pretty early there. Was there anything that stood out to you in that build-up play or that chance that Charlotte had very early on?
Well, before that, I want to say real quick, we about scored in the 1st minute. Ernan put a really good ball to Vargas, who was more a little more centrally, just in transition and everything like that. And Ernan plays a beautiful ball to him, so we about go up in the 1st minute. But for the goal wise, Pekovic, he's driving forward, picks his head up. Enzo makes a really great run. I think I don't know if he was offside or not. But anyway, he makes a really good run, draws 2 defenders to him. And I gave him a little bit of credit on Twitter, and people lost their marbles about it. Like, I don't understand that. It's okay to be very critical of someone and also like be a tad like, hey, that was a good thing there. So I don't understand people sometimes, but I thought it was good. He drug 2 defenders out of place, and that allowed Vargas to come in and sweep up. So good ball in, good run, and then Vargas did a really great job of following that play. He's done that kind of twice now. He has anticipated well and put himself in a good position to get goals, and that's exactly what you want. And again, it's going to suck that we're going to miss him this coming game.
Yeah, and it definitely drew those defenders. They were trying to stop a pass, and it kind of a back-heeled pass almost unintentionally right to Vargas, and was able to create that goal for us. So Charlotte went up early, but then I don't want to say mental lapse, but it was towards the end of the first half. NYCFC went up in the 41st minute. What do you remember from that goal that made the game a draw there? And I want to talk about momentum here for a second after that. But what stood out to you in that goal?
We got beat on a free kick. We were horrible on free kicks and corners all night. Nathan Byrne, who I don't think should have started. Now, let me preface that because people are going to get angry at me. Like, I think Nathan Byrne is our starter. But I said during Soccer and Coffee, I wouldn't have started him this game. I would have started Jalen Lindsay, let Byrne kind of get back into things. Byrne is going up against one of the tallest players on the field and just got beat. I don't want to jump around too far, but there was a moment in the second half. NYCFC has a corner. We'd already got beat, right, on a free kick header. Breck Dahare is guarding the goal scorer from the first goal. Now, the height difference is massive. Now, there's some stoppage in play, so our defense, somebody, a coach, literally anybody could be like, hey, Brecht, you probably shouldn't guard this really tall dude. Maybe Melanda or someone, literally any other person on that team other than Nathan Byrne should be guarding this guy. Nothing happens. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. The self-awareness on this team is what bothers me. That type of crap. Like, I'm yelling at the TV. And they have plenty enough time to switch off. There was like a little break or something like that. I'm like, why is Breck guarding the tallest guy on NYCFC's team who's already scored a header? Like, why is he guarding him? It made no sense. But yeah, we got beat on a free kick because Nathan Byrne is not the tallest. And why is he guarding him? Why is he on him? Like, I don't get it. So.
I was doing some quick math here, and I was looking at FootMob between the height difference between Nathan Byrne and Parks from NYCFC.
Yeah.
First of all, I have to call shenanigans on FootMob because they say that Nathan Byrne is 6 foot.
No, I'm taller. I'm taller than Nathan Byrne.
Yeah. First of all, that is complete and utter. But then you have Parks, who's almost 6'4". So 6'4", and then I would say Byrne's probably 5'8", give or take, maybe.
It would be like me guarding Jake Carpenter, if anybody knows him.
for a header.
And I could back in my day, I could jump pretty high, but still, you don't want someone short guarding someone. I mean, it's just stupid. Where's the self-awareness? It makes no sense.
So on that first half a little bit, and I don't want, like you said, I don't want to jump around too much, but we're still talking about the 2 goals. So one thing that stood out to me, and we've talked about it, and I think you and Corey talked about an episode that I wasn't on a little bit, but the momentum and like how Dean wants to play. Like we're not going to be a high scoring team as a current state as of April 29th. We are not known for a high scoring team. So Dean wants to play a style of play that does not make mistakes, sound defensively, and kind of grind out games and maybe get a goal or two, and then kind of grind it out and close a win or get a draw, right? If you look at the momentum and the way that this game took place, after we scored that goal, we did not look really good at all the rest of that first half. Like, NYCFC had possession. They were basically calling their shots. They were moving the ball around. You had a few spurts here and there for Charlotte, but like NYCFC had our number in that first half. And so do you think that once we went up, we kind of sat back and go, okay, we're going to grind this out for 83 minutes, or do you think it was just a mental shift, or what do you think happened from that first half from that point of view?
Well, I think we caught NYCFC off guard in the first 10 minutes or so. Uh, and that's good. We've done that before. We've come out really, really aggressive. I kind of go back to the Vancouver game. I think we can really catch teams off guard when we start fast like that. However, we go up and then we're not creative enough after that, and we're not possessing the ball enough. Just our back line keeps launching balls forward. We're not playing out of the back as much, and we're just immediately turning the ball over. So NYCFC can get the ball and come right back down, get set up, and like you're saying, kind of move the ball around. But I think that was our problem. Like we lack creativity, and we're just turning the ball over too much. I think our passing was like 72% this game. It's horrible. It's just absolutely horrible. And I don't understand it.
So now let's transition to that second half a little bit. You know, there's a few subs here, a few yellow cards. Enzo Capetti comes off at the 64th minute. Brett Gahajere comes in for Pekovic at the 63rd minute. So you had some, I don't want to say aggressive, but more like, I don't want to say early subs, but they were earlier in the second half. They weren't 45th minute or 50 minute. I mean, what do you think about those subs? And I mean, you had Jalen Lindsay come in for Yurdi. You had Tavares come in for Vargas. Tiger Smalls made his MLS debut for Abada. What do you think about Dean's subs, the timing in that second half, and who he brought on to the pitch?
The Lindsay sub makes sense because I'm guessing Yuri was just gassed and okay. I was kind of shaking my head like why is Byrne not going out to the left and Jalen on the right? Because it's so I was kind of okay. So the Tavares and Tiger Smalls sub. I've been kind of going back and forth on this because we have said that if you're going to lose by going for it. Those two subs are absolutely signaling that we are going for it. However, if I have to critique Dean here a little, I don't think you had a firm grasp on this game. I don't think we were in this game at all in the second half. We had some chances. We had a goal that was ruled offside. They also had one too. But I think just in general, we weren't really the better team. And I think defensive subs would have been a little better. And I sure as hell wouldn't have brought on Tavares and Tiger Smalls at the same time. Now, I'm about to talk about Tavares because I'm super, super pissed at him. And this game is the reason why he doesn't start. Because he cannot play defense. And I'm also pissed at Brett Gahajere for two reasons. One, he has not played well offensively. And two, he's also the reason why that second goal happens. Tavares cannot play defense. He whiffs horribly at trying to stop. I think it was Rodriguez. Kind of going down the line. He makes a horrible slide tackle. If you're going to foul, just foul him. Just foul the guy. If you're going to make a challenge like that, just bulldoze him over. Who cares? But he didn't do that. He didn't foul him, didn't tackle him, didn't do anything. And Brecht, but before that slide tackle, Brecht is half-ass guarding this dude. Which, I mean, why is he even on the field? I'm so pissed at this whole build-up play. All of that could have been prevented. And then the ball in again. And if you go back and kind of pause that, there's 3 NYCFC players there, and then you have Nathan Byrne and Malanda. Byrne is actually guarding 2 people in this play. So he gets beat, but at the same time, he's kind of having to guard 2 people. Malanda again. Who is he guarding? They're just taking up space. This team does not look around and have enough self-awareness to look around to see what's around them. They just don't. I don't know if they're being told to play like a zone type of defense or something, but they're just not picking up runners. They're not looking around. So the whole thing really, really frustrates me. That could have been avoided. Tavares is, again, I think that's why you don't see him start. That's kind of what I've heard anyway, too. Like defensively, just not there. Positionally and, whatever. So, yeah, I'm not too pleased about that whole scenario.
It does seem kind of an odd. I mean, I don't want to criticize Dean too much because one, I'm a podcast person. I'm not a professional coach here, but you have to wonder. It's not a normal size pitch. It is a weird venue. You bring on a guy who's played internationally in Crown Legacy and does not start consistently for us. You bring on a guy who hasn't played in MLS for a single minute until that moment. Now, granted, Tiger Smalls almost made a goal. He had almost a shot on target. That was kind of a nice kind of introduction there for him. But it does kind of like very lack of experience all of a sudden, because now you've got Tavares, Patrick Agyemang, Tiger Smalls up top. So out of the three of them, only Patrick started in MLS at this point last year, right? And so you've got a very raw. There's definitely some talent there, but just a very raw kind of subgroup there, if you may, and kind of coming into, like, if you're thinking about hockey, that's like your third or fourth line coming in. That's not your starter, but you're going to go for it by bringing in your third or fourth line of subs to try to close the game out.
If we were really pushing play and dominating and NYCFC were on the ropes, yeah, go for it. Because again, I am okay losing games going for it when you have the opportunity. I don't think we had the opportunity. I maybe Dean was seeing something else. Maybe everybody that's listening, maybe they have a different opinion of the game. I didn't think we had a firm grasp on that game. For after 10 minutes, it was more kind of back and forth and even, but more so NYCFC had momentum and had the advantage. So I don't see it. So, I mean, you had some defensive players at your disposal that I probably would have brought in, but Dean makes that decision. And hey, if we see that game out, maybe we're not talking about this. If Tiger Smalls scores that goal, Dean's a genius. So I'm not too angry at Dean. I'm not too angry at the team. Just there's some individual, just bonehead shit that goes on that I'm getting kind of sick of. And then also too, we have that's just not scoring again. And
so let's
have some stats around that.
I was gonna say let's start talking about some stats and facts a little bit here. So there's a few players that I want to kind of ask you personally on, and then I've got some stats here. I know you've got some, but you were just kind of talking about someone who is not scoring. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. So let's talk about Enzo Capetti. So what stats do you have, and how are you feeling about the DP for the club?
So we have someone that's being paid a lot of money, and they're not scoring. They have not scored yet. Do you want to know how many shots Enzo has this season? Not shots on target, just a shot. In 8 games, Enzo has 10 shots total. That's it. There are 4 games where he had 0 shots. I don't care about service. I don't care. That is just completely unacceptable. I'm sorry. Like, I will give him credit when he does something good, and I want him to do a lot better and prove everybody wrong. But for God's sake, man, like 10 shots total all season. It's not remotely good enough. Like, Patrick can at least create something out of nothing. Like, I do admit that Capetti's not getting the service that he needs. But you're a designated player. You're supposed to be the top of the top. You got to create something. You got to do something, man. Like, everybody else on the field is at least doing something, like, even when they're struggling. So at that point, man, like, we've got these home games coming up, man. He's got to do something. If not, then you just send him elsewhere.
Yeah, so we were talking offline a little bit about this, and I just happened to pull up Enzo Capetti on FBref and just to pull up some stats here. But we were talking here, and you mentioned the shot totals, and I was like, okay, let me see where he's looking at this from this. For the last 365 days, Enzo Capetti per 90 minutes averages 1.52 shots per 90 minutes. That is in the 4th percentile of strikers in the last 365 days. So that I'm just going to let that marinate for 2 seconds. That's horrific. Like you do need distribution, you need creation. You can shoot the damn ball. I see him during warmups when half of them sail over the goal and hit people in the supporter section. So he can shoot, but just like shoot the ball at time, man. Like I don't understand it. But I happened to look while you were talking there. So at his time at Racing and versus Charlotte here, at his peak, which was in 2022, like right before he got sold to Charlotte, he averaged 2.02 shots per 90 minutes. The year before that was 1.5. The year before that was 0.45. Granted, he had some injuries and things like that, but like he's averaging his worst season so far in the past 5 years, and with him starting consistently, right? So that's pretty scary from a striker perspective, right?
Yeah, it's not acceptable under any scenarios. Again, like, yes, he needs more service, but again, I go back to Patrick, who makes what, 60, 70K a year. He can at least create something himself. I don't understand. Abada, who's played, I think, half the games, has the better stat wise than it's just. I'm sorry. I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't. I've tried and I've tried, but when you go this many games and you don't even have a shot, we're not even talking about shots on goal. I didn't even look that up because I didn't even want to see it. But this is just shots. You could shoot this out of the stadium. He has 10 on the season and he has 4 games. So half of his games, he's not even shooting the ball at all. Why are you out there?
That can't be okay from a DP. And I know the team is probably seeing this or probably already knew this, right? You cannot have your DP striker start 60 plus minutes a game and not have a single shot on goal. Like that, you can have great hold up play. You can have great runs, great hustle. And if you look at some of Enzo's stats, like some of that, and I know Chance, you talked about that like last episode, some of his interceptions, some of his pressing, some of his clearances, ironically, his passing attempts is really high up there for forwards that play the same amount of minutes as he is. But like, that's not what we're paying him to do. We're not paying him for creating passes. We're not paying him for, clearances won or interceptions. We're paying him to score goals, and he's not doing that.
Another thing too, then I don't know if this is fair to him, that we keep launching balls forward. He doesn't have the best touch. So when he's trying to like bring stuff down or he gets a hard pass, I mean, it's bouncing off of his feet. I think Patrick's better at bringing the ball down. Swiderski was always good at bringing the ball down. Literally anybody that we've had up there was better at bringing the ball down. Like, it's just, how can we get the best out of Enzo? If I'm the coaching staff, I'm like, what do we have to do? Do we have to move some pieces around? Who does he link up best with? I mean, for God's sake. We're this many games in, 0 goals. I think he has 1 assist and 10 shots total. It's not good enough, and you've got to fix it. You've got this home stretch, and look, I hope he comes out these next group of games and just shuts everybody completely up. But I want to see it, and I haven't seen it. And if this continues, summertime, you got to go. You have to go. You can't keep him all season.
So I don't want to make it apples to apples comparison, because it's not. But and one of the questions that comes up talks about which is more important, the cam or the striker role and all this stuff. We'll get to that in just a second. But again, while we're talking, I just pulled this up, and it may be rubbing a little bit of salt on the wound, but it's not. I'm not saying that this player is worth the same amount as Enzo Capetti. I just want to put that out there. I'm not saying that. but I pulled up Daniel Rios' time in Charlotte. You ready for this? How many shots on goal? How many shots do you think he had in 15 games as a starter for Charlotte? Just take a wild guess.
What is
37 shots in 15 games for Charlotte in that time frame. Crazy. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
We were running like a 4-4-2. Our cam was TT Ortiz and Quinn McNeil. Like, think about that. So hold up play, cam creating things, but we had someone that was able to at least hold the shot and do 37 shots in a season for us. Enzo got that last year barely, right? And he started more than more than Daniel Rios did that first year, right? So that's scary for me because, like, even if you have a cam and a creation player, that, trust me, is very important. And I'm going to talk about Brett here in just a second, but you gotta be able to do some stuff yourself. You can't just sit back and go, feed me. You're not Ezekiel Elliott in soccer. You just can't say feed me the entire time.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for me, is that when you're paid that amount of money, service or not, you've got to try to do something with the ball. I haven't seen him be able to beat anybody off a dribble. I haven't seen him be able to hold the play up. He presses really, really well. He has a huge motor and can run all day long. He hustles really well. And again, on that first goal, he was able to pull some defenders out of the way, which is great. And if he's doing that, and I can give him a little more leeway if he continues to do stuff like that. But I mean, you're here to score goals and you're not even shooting the ball. That's the thing. If he's shooting, like he's just shooting all day and just unlucky or just not getting on, at least that's something. But 8 games in, you have 10 shots, and you have 4 games that you just and again, we lose this game, and he has zero shots. I don't get it. I don't get it.
So I've got a fact for you here, Swift. And again, this isn't just to beat up players, but it's highlighting some of the faults that we have right now. We have a guy that we expected to be our cam, right? Kind of creating for us, create assist with Breck, right? Since 2022, he has logged nearly 2,800 minutes in that time frame. And this is counting his time in France, counting the semi half year last year and the half year so far this year. How many assists do you think Brecht has in nearly 3,000 minutes?
We had a lot last season, right?
Well, we had a lot potentially. So, but he's made 3 assists in 3,000 minutes as a player. So he made 1 with his time in France in that 2022-2023 year, 0 for us last year, and then made 2 assists for us this year. So in that time frame, 3 assists in nearly 3,000 minutes. Now, so is that the Breck that's truly there, or are we going to eventually get that 2020 to 2021 player that had 10 assists in League 2 in France, or the next year where he was averaging 3 assists, 4 assists? Like, what do you think it is? Is it MLS is much more physical, faster pace? Like, what do you think the difference is and what that struggle is for him to be that shot creator and like that chance creator for us on this team?
I think that he's been a bust. I think that perhaps he could come good, and that when we go get another playmaker, he can come off the bench and be a sub there. Or you could slide him on the wings if you need to. I just don't see him as a starter. And he hasn't been. I mean, again, you have a DP not scoring, not shooting, and Patrick is kind of like, I'll come in second half for you, or I might start over you. And then we have a Cam who wears the number 10, who also gets paid a lot. And it's kind of like, yeah, you're not starting this game. You're not starting that game. You come in and you suck. You suck this game. You suck that game. So, I mean, it's I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but at the same time, if I'm the coach, I'm looking around like some of you dudes are going to be sitting the bench. I mean, you're paid too much money. I don't care though. Like, it's just it's not good enough. And maybe a message needs to be sent to some of these guys. So Unfortunately, Arfield was injured and couldn't play. But I got to tell you, I'm not starting Enzo and I'm not starting Brecht for a while. I mean, you may have to this coming game because Vargas is out and there may be some scenarios you have to move some stuff around. But I mean, shit, like, good God, man, it's I've been willing to give people some grace and stuff like that, but I've just seen enough and seen a pattern with some of these guys that I've lost my patience.
I think that shows Brecht the pattern there. 3,000 minutes and 3 assists. I think that right there shows you, like, granted, not all 3,000 minutes is in MLS. 1,800 was in France and 1,000's been in MLS, but the average a 1 assist per 1,000 minutes, that's not good enough.
Well, for me, again, it doesn't always have to be goals. It doesn't always have to be assist. It has to be, are you taking the ball, driving forward, drawing attention? You could lay it off. That person gets an assist or a shot. Great. You know, there's just not enough consistency with Brecht. You know, he did have an assist the other night with Patrick, but I think that was, to me, that was more of Jalen Lindsay getting him the ball in a wide open spot and then picking out Patrick. I mean, you should be able to do that. So again, I know we're bagging on Enzo and Brecht pretty hard here, and I'd like to get to some good stuff because I do have some stats about who our top performers are, but I'm just very disappointed in those two, and I need them to really step up.
Yeah, and I will still cheer for them if they're on the pitch. I'm still going to sit there and hope and, you know, root them on and cheer for them and still make sure that, like, not going to boo them or anything like that. I just want them. I want them to perform, and I want to have a reason to celebrate with them on the pitch. So don't get it twisted either. So, well, what else do you got for us from some facts? There's Mr. Swift.
Would you like to know the top-rated players according to FootMob? And you can take those stats for what it is, but the top 5. You want to know who the top 5 are?
Let's do it.
The top 5 is, number 1 is Diani. He's number 1 top-rated player on our team, according to FootMob.
Interesting.
Number 2, number 2, Ashley Westwood. Number 3, Malanda. Number 4, Vargas. And number 5, Uranen. Those are your top-rated players on this team. So I wanted to call that out, but I do have some other. Well, these are not great stats, though.
Are any of those like a surprise? Are any of those a surprise to you, though? Like, if you read that out loud, I mean, when you were reading that, I'm like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense that those are probably our top 5 rated players. But any of those were a surprise to you?
I think Diani being first was a little bit of surprise, and it just kind of makes you wonder, like, how bad did he play? Where Dean, like, because I don't remember exactly what he said about him, but I don't think he was very pleased with his play.
He basically made a comment about as a 6, he doesn't expect him to make those deep runs on the other side of the field, and then during transition play, you basically are leaving the spine in the midfield just completely open at that point, right? But then again, it could also be our wingers aren't making those runs and whatever it is, but that's neither here or there. So,
but I mean, this game, and again, I go back to these subs. Like, you have a game where you're struggling possessing the ball. You have a game where you're struggling connecting passes, and you throw on Tavares and Smalls at the end instead of Johnny Brant Bronico. That game cried out for Brant Bronico, by the way. That is a game where Brant, he is perfect for that game. Because, again, for me, my personal opinion, we were not ahead in that game. We did not have the advantage. Brant is perfect to come in and really try to break up that midfield, really get some bite in there, make some hard tackles. Left on the bench. Diani, who's really good on the ball, left on the bench. So Dean went for it, and it didn't work. And I'm trying to figure out why he went for it. But again, I'm all for it when there's the opportunity, but I didn't see the opportunity, and I wouldn't have done it. But I'm also not the coach, and it's easier for me to say that now, after the game. Because again, if Tiger would have scored that goal, then okay, Dean's a
we
genius.
we would be all celebrating like we did with Cambridge last year with that 2 goals and be like, oh my God, start of every game, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
it's okay. But I've got a fun group of stats here for you, Swift, if you're ready for some
what you got?
Some not science-based stuff here, but I have to give credit to Matt Nolan and the folks in the MCC Slack because they did the hard work for me. I didn't do any of this work. I just selfishly stole it. So thank you guys for creating content for the show. But I also wore the kit because of the stats. So I'm wearing the mint kit from the OG original year. The reason for that is because, did you know, Swift, that from a record perspective, and for those who are watching on YouTube, I put it up here on the screen, and this is all of the kits that we've won during the game, wore during games. So the One Planet kit we actually wore for one game, and we won that game. So 1-0.
And that
Davey,
is
right.
And that's to clarify, that is the blue one. That is not the white and pink one.
There you go. That's right. Yep. Got it.
Yeah.
The mint kit is 5 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. The new kit this year, the Carolina Explore kit, is 3 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. The Crown Jewel kit is 2 wins, 8 draws, and 4 losses. And then the OG Carolina kit is 13 wins, 7 draws, and 28 losses. But it doesn't stop there. Again, thank you. I'm crowdsourcing these stats here for us. So if you're a percentage guy, thanks, Matt Chantry. The Mint kit has won 56% of the games. The Explorer kit has won 50% of the games. The Crown Jewel kit has won 14% of the games. And the OG Carolina kit has won 27% of the games. I got one more stat. I'm not done. One more time here. I know, right? I can't remember if this was Greg Fenwick or if this was Matt Nolan or somebody asked about points per game. But here we go. The Mint kit. Thank you again. Selfishly did the work for me, so thank y'all. The Mint kit, 1.89 points per game. The Explorer kit, 1.67 points per game. The Carolina kit, 1 point per game. And then the Carolina kit, 0.98 points per game. So all I'm doing this to say is I'm going to take my victory lap here. So I told y'all the purple kit was not good for a reason. So you're welcome. I'm just joking. I've grown on the purple kit. It's fine. But I did this also because the mint kit is the best kit. Actually, I kind of like the new kit this year probably more. But from a winning perspective, I like the mint kit the most. So, Swift, was that surprising to you at all when you saw those stats?
No, I felt like the mint, the black and mint kit we were pretty good in. We didn't wear it all that much. But yeah, the purple kit, man, it's just unlucky for some reason. I don't know. Yeah.
And to the purple's defense, most of those games that they drew or lost in was the Christian Latanzio era. So in the Dean Smith era, I don't have those stats. I'll have to pull that up, but it's not been great either, but it's not been that bad compared to all the games last year in it. So, but
yeah,
awesome, man. Would you have any more fun stats for the fans or listeners here?
Just kind of going back to some team stats. I mentioned some of these before, but out of 29 teams, average possession, we are 25th, which is very surprising and very different from last year. So out of 29 teams, we are 25th in average possession. I mentioned accurate passes per match. We're 25th there. Accurate crosses, we're 24th. Expected goals, XG, we're 18th. Shots on target per match, 23. Kind of goes back to one of our players not ever shooting. Big chances missed. You don't want to be high up in this one, but we are 4th. We were 4th in the league in big chances missed. And we are 6th in yellow cards. I want to know this. What is our team identity? I mean, like, who are we really? I want to see answered in these next 5 games. We've got 2 home games. We travel to Chicago on a Wednesday, and then we come back and play 2 more home games. So I want to, who are we? Like, what is our team identity? What are we about? Because right now it just seems like we're a little all over the place. It's not, and look, it's not horrible. I still think that we are better than we are last season. But this group of games is really going to be telling to me. Playing that many home games, you've got to maximize your points. This is a good time for us to move up the table. So I'm hoping that we take advantage of it, and we have not taken advantage of situations this season, which is a kind of another downer a little bit. But I'm hoping for some good things coming, and just hope that we can, take advantage.
Well, you segue perfectly to fan Q&A, so we'll do that in just a second. But I have one kind of funny thing just to say, because when you said that, like identity and who are we, what do we do, except like that kind of thing, this is totally random. But have you ever seen Kindergarten Cop, Arnold Schwarzenegger, from way
Of
back in the
course.
90s? Yeah. So there's a scene
Yeah.
where he's like, "Who is your daddy? What does he do?" Because he's like interviewing all of them. All I'm imagining now is Matt Swift saying, "What is your identity? What do you do?" And like that, like just talking to the team that way. So don't know why, just popped in my head randomly. So we'll move on quickly from that bad joke. So that's okay. Well, awesome, man. You ready to take a quick break here, and then we'll do some fan Q&A?
Yeah, let's do it.
And we're back with the fan Q&A. So Swift, we got a lot of questions tonight. Some that were very lengthy. So I tried my best to summarize this. No Coriensko tonight. He is on his way back from the beach. So I know me and him were on the beach this weekend. So I'll do my best to impersonate Corey as the producer on this show and pull up these questions. So hopefully I did okay for us here, Swift. So our first question comes from Matt Chantry. So what is our bigger problem to fix? So is it the lack of a competent cam or the lack of the goals from the striker? So I know we talked about that a little bit earlier in the show, and he kind of went on through this a little bit, but I had to tweak it a little bit just to make it fit on the show. So Swift, what is it? Is it the chicken or the egg?
I think we need to fix the lack of goals from our strikers, and I say that because Vargas is getting off shots, Abada is getting off shots. I mean, Abada could have scored this game too. So they're getting off shots. Why are, at least one of our strikers not even getting a shot off? So that's gotta be fixed. It's got to be Enzo maybe moving in different pockets of space, being directed differently. Maybe when he's on the field, maybe you don't have him run and press so much. I don't know. Something got to give there. I think that's what you've got to fix. So, because I still think he can get our strikers can still get service from Westwood, Gianni, the wingers. But yeah, you got to shoot the ball to score.
So speaking of DPs and strikers and shots and goals, Greg Fenwick, and Greg, thank you again as always for always asking questions. Greg asks, if we could only have Abada and one other DP, would you rather have Capetti or going back in time and keeping Uzviak in this situation? So would you keep Uzviak right now or would you keep Capetti?
I think I get the point of this question because I know Uzviak, I think, had a pretty decent game, and that's the thing. Anytime any former player has a decent game, like, see, we could have done this and that. I'm like, come on, guys, like they're gonna have good games when they go to other teams. Like it's but Uzviak doesn't solve your problem. So having him doesn't solve any problems. I mean, I don't want Uzviak as a DP. I would take him as if you were able to get him on for less money, way less money. It could be a good depth piece, or like this weekend, it'd be great to have Uzviak. You could replace Vargas with Uzviak, but it doesn't really solve the problem. I would rather, I mean, got to keep Capetti and hope that he does something. So I just think he just needs a goal. I'm wondering, like, if he just scores once, he'll just start rolling. But yeah, I get the question, but it really doesn't solve your problem.
Yeah, I agree. So speaking of wingers, we just talked about, Uzviak, Vargas, etc. Chris says, with Vargas out this weekend, do you go with Tavares or do you go with Brecht at the wing? He votes Tavares. So who would you start at the wing this week with Vargas being out?
Yeah, unfortunately, Vargas is out because I would sit both of these guys. I wouldn't have Brecht or Yuri out there after that game. I'm just still very bitter at both of them. Like, Tavares is young. I like him a lot. I was really big on him, so don't get me wrong. I just think defensively he's just a huge liability, and I've said that before. And then, sure enough, this game he shows it again. But what would I do? Man, I guess what I would do, I guess it depends on Pekovic and Scott Arfield, because what you could do is you could put Brecht on the left, have Abada on the right, and then I think I would put Pekovic as you kind of like your cam. Good God, that doesn't sound ideal at all when I say it. But I don't. What's your other option? You have Tavares, you have Abada on the other wing, and then Brecht in the middle. I don't.
Do you have Tiger, or do you have Cambridge come in? Do you have Ben Bender finally back? What about those players?
I don't think Cambridge is ready yet. And I wouldn't start him anyway, even if he was back and 100% and ready to go. He needs more minutes. I think he'll probably need to play at Legacy too, just like I think Bender is going to need to as well. I think we're kind of still a ways for both of them, Bender and Cambridge, coming back and being any impact at all. So we have to kind of like just kind of keep that out of mind until they get healthy and get minutes at Legacy. But yeah, it's a big question that Dean's going to have to kind of ponder. I wouldn't start Tiger Smalls. I just don't think that's fair to him. I don't think he's ready. Again, defensively, like, man, you've got to really think about that, because Abada's not great defensively on the other side. I mean, you could just get destroyed defensively on both wings if you're not careful. But I guess the direction would be if Brecht starts out wide, I'm like, dude, you gotta play defense. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
So I'm gonna channel my Jeff Eklund, friend of the show, here for a second. So is it finally time for the 4-4-2 Swift?
No, because Portland has a really good midfielder.
They
have
do
on my fantasy team. I have him on my fantasy team, and you're going to really have to take care of him. So I think what I would really, now that I'm kind of like thinking about that too, I think I really would like Pekovic, Westwood, and maybe Urso or Diani, like that kind of. And again, I don't know how much defense of bite Dean wants to have in the middle, but we talked about top-rated players. You got Diani there. He's been good. He had kind of one bad game, I think, but I don't know. I think I would start Pekovic again. He didn't look bad.
I think this is
better than Brecht.
I think this is a moment where we might actually see someone like a Brant Bronico start getting some more significant minutes, especially if our midfielders are playing more out wide because of injuries, lack of experience, etc. So if you see Brecht out there out wide, you got to keep fresh legs out there somewhere, and that eliminates another midfielder that we can have sub in. So you could potentially have an Urso or a Bronico or somebody come in and contribute that way. So, but speaking of midfield, so I'm see how I'm segueing there a little bit. I'm leading you along this journey of mine, Swift. Donnie Fatbird asks, should we have Brant Bronico just blanket Abada and practice every day to get him used to aggressive MLS defenses compared to what he's used to be playing? So what do you think from Donnie's question there?
I think the point of this is like have Brant kind of like rough up Abada during training to get him used to MLS play. And the what a lot of people say is that they're kind of shocked at the physicality of that first game that Abada played in. He had that drive where he basically stiff armed a dude for like 20 yards and then finally got taken down. So yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit to get used to. I don't know if he needs a lot. I mean, Abada's a kind of a smaller dude, and like that's not his game, is to be physical. His game is to beat people off the dribble.
We're paying him to score goals.
Yeah. So I'd rather him be fast and dainty, I guess is a good word, instead of physical.
Dainty.
We don't need necessarily a physical winger. I mean, Abada's a small dude, so but again, like you can get away. Like there's players like bring Chris Hill again. Like he's not going to play defense. He's not a physical guy, but he makes up for it with what he can do on the ball. He's on a crappy team, but yeah, he's the best, one of the best teams out there. But yeah, I mean, I get the question for sure, and I'm sure Bada's probably like, damn, there's some beasts in this league. It's a very physical league. Like it does catch a lot of people off guard. And I also think it catches a lot of coaches and scouting folks off guard.
So speaking of midfield still, Brian asks, what are your early thoughts of Pekovic, especially with his starting minutes here?
Yeah. I'm a fan. I was a fan when we signed him. I was a fan when he played at Legacy. I like him again. He's versatile. You can move around. I think he's good on the ball. He had the assist. He had another shot in the game. It was the best shot, but hey, guess what? It was on frame. So there we go. I like what I've seen with the options that we have. Again, I think why not start again? I mean, he's he cost a little bit of money, but it was nice because we were able to kind of not hide it, but move that to Legacy, and it didn't hit our Charlotte FC's
creative
cap,
accounting, sir.
Yeah, I thought that was good business, but creative I like what I've seen. I think like I said, he has good vision. I think he's good on the ball, and he likes to go forward, and that's what you need in that position. You get someone that's a little fearless. I like his quality, so I'm a big fan so far.
All right, so now still talking about our midfield and wings and style of play a little bit. So I'm going to segue a little bit here. So first one, you talked earlier in the show about identity and who we are, right? David Kelly says, "Who is your daddy and what does he do?" No, I'm just joking. So he says, "Where we," and I had to summarize this, so it's a little janky on the screen here, but because it's a very lengthy question, but it was a very good one. And I'm going to summarize it here. We went from a cross and pray type of style of play, right, to now a launch and pray type of strategy. So is our early season success due to that change of play style? And now are we seeing what the true talent level of the team is because teams can prepare for us differently? Or is it truly just a rough patch that we're going through?
I think a little bit of a rough patch. I think the big difference this whole season has been defensively. Up into these last 3 games, we have been really good defensively. The last 3 games, you have had our right back out and our center back out. This game, you had our center back and our right back first games back. I think that has had a lot to do with it over these past 3 games. Now, what's going to happen this next game and the game after that, I think that'll be a little more telling. But I do want to see us form a little better identity going forward. What are we doing? Are we using our wingers more? Are we launching balls forward? And if we're doing that, do we actually have the right personnel up top? Who are we going to be? Because it looks like we're not going to be at 85, 95% passing percentage because we're knocking the ball around out of the back. We're not going to always play on the ground out of the back. Looks like we're going to launch balls forward, try to press teams and keep them pinned back in, which I'm fine with. But like, what is this team really going to be about? And it could be maybe a little bit of a struggle until we get to the summer and get some reinforcements in. But I'd like to see us really figure out what we're going to do.
Me personally speaking, I would love just to have us play in the spine and get creative in the middle versus launching and praying it. But that's just me. I'm going back 3 years ago when we said that we were going to play the spine. That's okay. So speaking of the spine and the midfield, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'd like to see that too, and that's what we were told. We haven't, but we don't have, and we have never had a playmaker that can make a difference. We've had 2 people now that's had that number 10 jersey that probably shouldn't. And I hate to say that. And again, maybe Brett can prove me wrong and get going himself. But if you're wearing that number, it means something, and it hasn't here. I thought TT Ortiz was a horrible signing. I don't like him as a player, and I think Brecht has not lived up to that number 10. I don't think he's done as well as he should. So that's what we really, really need. If you're going to play through the spine, you've got to have somebody kind of at the top there that can make things happen and or feed your strike. And just we're relying too much on Westwood and Yanni to make those. A lot of times we're just launching it out of the back.
We're relying on Westwood's long ball and Diani to help try to filter it, which is you shouldn't rely on your 6 and your 8 to create chances all the time. So, so speaking of more, sorry, I thought we had my question queued up here a little bit. Eric Hill asks, was Dean right in bringing in a young Tavares in a debut of Tiger Smallsley? I know we kind of talked about that earlier. Is there anything that you would add to that? I know we kind of answered that during the original part of the show, but anything else?
Yeah, I hope that Dean learned a little something with this game to maybe, I don't know, I'd love to know what he saw that led him to be like, yeah, I think this game could be had. I didn't see it, but maybe he saw something, and he's the professional. He's got a staff there that maybe they were telling him some stuff too, or maybe he felt a certain way. Maybe Tavares and Smalls were training really well, and he was really impressed and thought that was the time to do it. And again, it didn't come off. I don't think it was the right move, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's the game where you try to ground out a point.
So this one I saw, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on it, because I also saw it in Slack during the game, and I also saw it on Facebook a little bit. And I Jordan, sorry, I had to clip this a little bit because of the length of the question, but and I'll summarize it for you, Swift. But he says, is it too much to ask for Kalina to show just a little bit of effort on some of these shots on goal? The amount of times he just stands there and kind of watches whether the ball goes in. He says later on in the question, is it just him? It just kind of irks him, or is it something that he should even be really mad about? What do you think from that perspective?
I don't know. I don't think that he does that. I think he's been a lot better this season with decision making. He had a couple great saves in this game. He also kind of hurt his arm a little bit. The second goal, yeah, he probably stood there because there's really nothing he could have done. I mean, he could have fallen down and I guess made it look better, but I don't know. Is this what people are?
Yeah. I saw it quite a lot. Yeah, to be honest with you, a lot of people were.
Maybe I'm just not paying attention. Yeah, I think I've been kind of focused on other stuff. Like I don't know. I have to go back and look. It's a good question, Jordan. I haven't noticed it. But I thought Kalina played pretty well. I think his rating was pretty good too, but he made some really good saves, I thought.
He was our second highest player, and I think without Kalina, we would have lost that game 3-1 potentially.
Yeah, and honestly, I think this year, like I mentioned, I think his decision making has been better. There are sometimes on corners, free kicks, I feel like he's a little more assertive and come out and punch some balls or like grab balls out of the air. Sometimes he does sit kind of like on his line a little bit, and yeah, I guess is very depending on his defense there. But I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to hear other people's opinions. I haven't seen anything or heard anything, but yeah, I haven't seen it.
Awesome. So Jay Lansgroner, friend of the show here, has got 2 defensive questions here for us. So the first one, How much can you attribute to how he played to a lack of recent play by Byrne and Melendez? So that was the first part of the question. I had to split this up into 2 or 3 different parts. So, I mean, do you think Byrne, Melendez really had that big of a impact to us for those few games? And then what were they like this week for this past game?
I think defensively they've both been really, really good season. I think that's why we had some early success and why we weren't giving up as many goals the past 3 weeks. Again, 2 weeks in a row, both of those guys are out, and I think we gave up 5 goals there, right? I think 5. And then this game, this their first game back. Burns been out quite a bit, and I just don't think defensively they were on the same page, and gave up 2 more. So it's that hasn't been the trend. I'm hoping that this we get back to our old ways and just be really defensively sound. I'm looking for that, especially in playing at home too. So I'm really hoping to see us be defensively, competent, mindful, and keep some clean sheets. I really need that.
Plus, the defense needs some bottles of wine, man. They haven't had any in a while. They need to get some from Dean. So,
That's right.
So the next question from Jay is again about the defense. Is Privet the most underrated player on the team over the last 12 months? What do you think about the impact he's had, and do you think he's underrated by fans?
Yeah, I think underrated is definitely, I would say underrated. When I was looking at some of these stats too, I was looking at some defensive stuff. I think he leads in clearances, blocks. I think he leads the team, so he's doing very, very well. Again, playing at having to really make that position his. No one has taken that spot from him. He hasn't had any huge gaps. Again, there's been times the whole defensive, unit has not done well here or there, but he's done phenomenal, and big kudos to him, man. I hope his agent is pushing for some more money for him.
I think his deal's actually due at the end of the season as well, right? So I think it's time for him to get an extension and get rightfully paid a little bit. So thanks for the question, Jay. So these next 2 questions are about transfer windows and maybe some buyer's remorse and even seller's remorse here first. So the first question is from Josh. So Josh says, would you not rethink, or sorry, I may have typed this in wrong, but would you now rethink who we sign in the summer? With our strikers not scoring, do you shift to bring in a striker now? Do you sell Capetti? What do you do now?
That's a question for sure. And it's something to really think about. We definitely need a playmaker. That's been a problem. But when you have a designated player that's being paid that much, has not scored, has 1 assist, and again, has only shot the ball 10 times, that is a major, major concern. So, but if you have a Cam that, should be able to score and set other people up, you do have both really great wingers. We have Vargas, we have Abada, so I think you can get away with it. I still think I lean towards getting that Cam, but if I'm the front office, I am already starting to say, okay, where can we sell Capetti? Who can we get in after that? Because I do think you need to make a change unless something happens with Capetti over these next couple of games. But it's got to come quick because as we know, deals take a long time to develop, and you gotta do these things in advance. So I think if Capetti's not performing next couple of games, you're like, okay, got to get him out of here, or we're going to really flounder the rest of the season. But I think I'd still go for that Cam. I think that's just the pivotal spot we still need, because you do have Patrick. So we'll see.
Well, and if you're Charlotte FC, you want Capetti to also not only do well for yourself, but for the team. You got to get some footage of him to actually do well to sell him, right? Because you're not going to get back what you bought him for at this point. You got to get something back, and if you got to have some footage that shows positives there.
And unless the front office and Dean are really thinking that what Enzo really needs is that playmaker to really get him better balls. I don't know their like thought process or mindset about how they feel about that. Maybe they think that, hey, all Enzo needs is someone that right there with him that could feed off of him, make, 1-2 passes and things like that. So I can't really answer that, but for me, I'd really start thinking about offloading Capetti if this is the trend that's going to be going on.
Yep, I agree. So we got one last question here, and this may be the buyer's remorse question I alluded to. So Jack said, or seller's remorse, sorry. Jack says, why did they let Swiderski go so easily? And is there any possibility of getting him back this season? So what's your thoughts?
I don't think it was like letting him go so easily. We've talked about this before. You always want to try to do right by players. That's how you get a really good reputation and word of mouth that gets around. So it helps bring in players because they know that you're going to do right by them. They're not going to shaft, you're not going to prohibit them from doing things. Swiderski made no bones about it that he wanted to go season and play for and in a bigger league, and that's fine. So he was here for 2 seasons, and then he's moved on. It is a loan. I guess technically he could come back, but I think what he wants to do, unless he has changed his mind completely, he wants to stay, even if the loan spell when it's over, if his team stays up or gets relegated, whatever the case is, no matter what that scenario is, I still think he wants to stay over there. Now, I'm not saying that he hates Charlotte and hates everybody here or, whatever the case is. I just think that's what he prefers. And again, that's fine. And I think the team wanted to honor that instead of saying, no, you're going to stay here and you're going to do what we say and everything like that. But, anything is possible. I guess never say no, but I wouldn't bank on it. I wouldn't assume it, but man, it would be really nice to have him because he's the type of player that can make this happen himself. He can get the ball at the top of the box, make a move, get a shot off. Enzo, for whatever reason, just has not been able to do that.
I'm just imagining now, like, I'm sure you've watched wrestling before, Swift, but like, where it's like those surprise appearances, and it's like, is that Stone Cold's music? And all of a sudden, like, Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out of nowhere. I just want like we're middle of a game, all of a sudden there's music playing, and they're like, is that Karol Swiderski's music? And all of a sudden Karol runs onto the pitch and gets on a sub and scores for us, without doing it. So that's my pipe dream, my fever dream.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked Swiderski. I thought he was a good player. I hate that he's gone. I think he could really do well in Dean's system, but it's what it is. And like he wanted to go, so they wanted to honor that. But maybe Swiderski will change his mind, but I doubt it. I think he just wants to stay over there.
I don't think he comes back. Yeah, I mean, good luck to him. I wish him all the best. Excuse me, I wish him all the best, and I still root for him if I watch him, here and there. But like, I don't think he's back. So awesome, man. Well, that's it for the fan Q&A. So Swift, any other final thoughts from this horrific collapse in New York?
No, just looking to get better this week. Like I said, we're home for 2 games, on the road for 1, and a midweek game, and then back home for 2 more games. They won't be easy opponents, but we usually play well at home, even though we lost our last one. But I think that's hopefully a wake-up call. I think the crowd will be bigger. It's supposed to be a nice weekend and everything. So some tough opponents.
It's going to be interesting I was going to say, it's going to be interesting to know what the crowds will be like with that music festival there in Charlotte this week. Because we have a lot of folks in Charlotte and Uptown all weekend.
Yeah, there's always stuff going on, and there's a lot of competition for fans and for things for people to do. So that's why it's always impressive that we have the attendance that we have. And even though attendance was down last game, it's still pretty impressive that many people are coming out to these games consistently. Like, we haven't been, burning the road up and like doing awesome, so but people are still showing up. We're doing our part and supporting this club through the good, bad, and the ugly, and hopefully this we've got some good this coming game.
Awesome, man. Well, I know the fans are going to be looking forward to your preview episode later this week as Charlotte takes on Portland. So be sure to take a look out for that. I know you're going to have some social posts go out here later today or later this week too. So I guess on that note, sir, I'll see you on Soccer and Coffee later this week.